So welcome back to the Defiant Spirit podcast. I'm Baruch Levy, also known as B. I am creator of the Defiant Spirit and the Defy Your Number Enneagram system. Some of you are joining me on iTunes, others on, I don't think we're on Spotify right now, but many Podbean, other places, and many of you are on YouTube. Now, oftentimes it doesn't matter. I would say, if you're ever going to watch one, these might be the podcasts to watch as videos because I'm going to use some slides in each of these and it's helpful. But if you don't have the slide or you don't want to watch, you want to listen, that's fine too. I'll talk you through it and you can always get the slides from me or you can get them on my website, defiantspirit.org. So when I teach the Enneagram, for those of you who don't know, I teach the Enneagram, created my own system, and I've merged the great Dr. Viktor Frankl, his inspiration, his life example, logotherapy. I'm a logotherapist. It's meaning-centered living, bringing his great inspiration to the Enneagram, merging them, first time ever. I can't find another system out there of Enneagram that's built upon and around Dr. Frankl. And his idea that we are either in reaction or in response. His famous quote that many people know, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our power to choose our response. So between stimulus and response, there's a space. Between shit happening and us reacting, we have a moment, or we have a lot of moments, or we have a split second, or we can learn how to create that space. But whatever that space is, we don't have to react. We can learn to respond, or as Dr. Frankl says, to become responsible, response-able, able to respond. And so when I teach the Enneagram, oftentimes people say, hey, B, give me some examples, give me some homework, give me, I want to bring it to life. And that's what I love the Enneagram. 9 fundamental ways of being in the world, patterns. And you can see these patterns all throughout the world, all throughout life. And especially I like to find them in movies and television, because oftentimes they're caricatures, they're extreme examples of each Enneagram type, but really gives it some flavor. And that's what I want to do over the course of the next few videos. I'm not sure how many it will be. We'll see how long each one goes. I want to walk through each Enneagram type in television and on the big screen, and just kind of give you some highlights. Now, the pages I'm going to show you, there's 1 page per Enneagram number, so 9 numbers, all in my Defy Your Number program. So now you can get this and so much more. I feel like an infomercial. And if you buy now, I'll throw in a lot, because there's a lot that went into my program, Defy Your Number. If you already know your number, your Enneagram type, then you can just reach out to me or my assistant at defiantspirit.org and we'll get you into the program. It's 41 pages of an ebook. There's a workbook, there are videos, there's bonus supplemental materials. I am so proud of this work that I have created. Spent almost 2 years putting this together. So if you don't know your type, then you can take an assessment with me. If you do know your type, it's, I believe, $199. If you don't know your type, it's $299. And again, a super substantial A to Z program to not only get your number, but to live your number and then to defy your number. And so here's one of the pages in it you're going to get. And this is for Enneagram 1. So for those of you listening, we're doing Enneagram 1 today. Name that one. And this is like page 10 or something in my book. So this is my gift to you right now, whether you take on the Defy Your Number program. This is an example. I have so many ways to bring the Enneagram to life. I got like, if an Enneagram 1 was a country, if an Enneagram 1 was a music genre, if an Enneagram 1 was a sport, if an Enneagram 1, it goes on and on and on. And that to me is so important about the Enneagram. And so few programs out there offer pop culture and just interesting ways to learn about this as part of the program. They may reference it. I build it into the program. So this is what you get for Enneagram 1. Whether or not you're an Enneagram 1, you may have it as part of, well, you certainly have it as part of your profile. We have all 9 numbers in us, but it may be a central part of your profile, what I call your whole type, or some people call your tri-type. So one of your 3 primary numbers. And if you were a 1, this would be how you act. I'm not going to do this right now, but think, feel, and act. So 8, 9, and 1 are the action triad. 2, 3, and 4 are the feeling triad. And 5, 6, and 7 are the thinking triad. And you're going to have one dominant in each of these. So you may be an Enneagram 7, but your whole type may consist of an Enneagram 1 as an example. And that's you think like a 7, but you act like a 1. And then you would have 2, 3, or 4 as your heart type. At any rate, let's look at Enneagram 1 or ones. I have a 1 son. I have a 1 brother. I had a 1 father. I believe my dad's was Enneagram type was a 1. I have many Enneagram 1 clients. Remember, they're the reformer. They're the perfectionist. They are the idealists. They are the principle value-based types. Excuse me. I have a whole podcast on Enneagram 1. Go back and listen to it. I've done Wealth 360 with my friend Michael Feiner around Enneagram 1, the blue chip investor. Go listen to it. I have leadership program. And in the leadership program, I think it's called the Principal Leader, Enneagram 1. You start to get the vibe. Okay, Enneagram 1 in pop culture. So, TV ones. Well, I'm not even going to delineate because I can't tell always. Some of these characters go back and forth. But I'm looking at the top right corner. And if you're looking at this slide, you see the original Batman, not the dark, brooding Batman. I think Batman is an example of a character that's evolved in cinema. Well, this wasn't cinema, this was TV, but who's evolved over time and changed. I like that too. I mean, the Batman today versus the Batman when I was growing up, totally different Batmans. Batman today, certainly like the Christian Bale version, I think more fourish, more brooding, or yeah, I think a lot more fourish. Although Enneagram 1 and 4 have a line, and there's a connection between the two. We're not going into that. You can listen to that elsewhere. But Enneagram 1 Batman principle. You know, and back in the day, superheroes were a little more simplistic. It was a black and white, and Enneagram 1s tend towards black and white. So principle, value-based, good versus evil kind of a thing. Binary thinking, black and white. Again, it's all or it's nothing. So you have a lot of superheroes. I would say most of the early superheroes, the Marvel characters anyways, I don't think as much, sorry, not the Marvel, the DC Comics characters. Marvel became a little more complex. You know, you look at X-Men and you look at Fantastic Four, they're just a little more nuanced than the early DC Comics, but you have Batman, you have Superman, I think Wonder Woman, is she up here? She could be up here. There's a one-like quality to all of them. And it's a sort of a yesteryear kind of a number. It's more conservative by nature. It's more modest. Enneagram 1s are, they just have that sort of leave it to Beaver, right and wrong. Father knows best. None of that is up here, I don't think. But those are all Enneagram 1-ish vibes, feelings. Enneagram 1s are wisdom people. So Yoda, I'm looking at Yoda now. I moved from Batman to Yoda. Next to Yoda is Captain America. He's definitely an Enneagram 1, kind of a goody two-shoes quality. If, these are characters and caricatures, so, you take it with a grain of salt. But there is a goody thing that a 1 can be, sort of the good boy, the good girl. Now, that doesn't mean they're good. It doesn't mean they're beneath the surface. They're not manipulating. That's oftentimes just their way of doing it. Remember back in the day, Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. I don't know if he was 1, but he presented himself like a 1. But then, the parents would leave and he would be something totally different. So I don't think he truly was a 1. It sounds more 3-ish. But that reformer, that perfectionist comes across very good. And sometimes underneath it, a lot of darker stuff going on. Yoda, I don't know if he's 1 or 5. Lots of times characters and people will, to me, look very similar on the surface as 1s or 5s because they're both clear thinkers. They're clear strategic people. The difference is in motivation. Whereas a 5 really is all about wisdom and knowledge and understanding. The 1 is much more about right and wrong. And I think of a Yoda character as much more in the realm of right and wrong, and communicating that to Luke in Star Wars, becoming a mentor. I think 1s can very much become mentoring type figures. They just have that clarity about them. I gotta be honest, I look at some of these characters, I don't even know who they are. I did this like a year ago, and I did research. I didn't just grab anybody, but I cannot say that I have watched every show on here. I actually don't want to say that. And I certainly can't remember all the names if I did. But you'll fill in the blanks. You'll tell me who it is. I certainly know who Elsa is, because Elsa from Frozen, one of my children just lived on Elsa, on Frozen, but on Elsa specifically for a few years. So I heard and watched that movie over and over again. And Elsa is this ice queen, and there's an iciness to a 1. Again, reactive, not the highest version, but there's a distance that a 1 will present, oftentimes hiding behind morality, hiding behind their principles, like an ivory tower, like a frozen castle. And if you watch that movie, Elsa is alone because she lives in an untouchable place. Now, sometimes that untouchability is true and good, and sometimes it's a defense mechanism. It's a way to hide from relationship. Even, I've said this before, but even when you hug a 1, they're not the most huggable people. I mean, they're incredibly lovely and loving, but they're the body types. 8, 9, and 1 are not the touchy-feelies of the Enneagram. That'd be 2, 3, and 4, maybe some 7. They're a little more rigid in physical form. So when you hug a 1, there's almost a little bit of a rigidity. I'd say it's probably the most rigid type, a tightness, a clenching. It's where, this anal retentive Freudian piece comes from. I've said it before with 1s, but they're the most anal retentive when they're reactive. Control, that's all that anal retentive is a baby's first primary ability to control, revolves around bowel movements. So there's this like clenched and closed and rigid thing with reactive 1s. You can see it in, I'm looking at Claire from, am I looking at Claire? I feel like I just saw Claire. There she is. From Modern Family. If you watch Modern Family, Claire, the daughter of Jay, the wife of Phil, Claire has this clear 1. I mean, she is all about structure and order and cleanliness and right and wrong and black and white. And there's a rigidity around her. Now, it's quite appealing when it's holding the family together, when it's creating a structure for a family dynamic and unit. And, somebody's got to plan the Thanksgiving dinner and put the napkins out and all that. And Claire takes on that role, but then you can feel with 1s, there's this anger that they're not in touch with. And sometimes in the show, like she'll just be fuming. It's coming out her ears, but she doesn't know she's angry, and everybody else around her knows she's angry. Enneagram 8, 9, and 1 all deal in anger. 8s express anger, so you know it when you're with an 8. They explode. 9s, they go away from anger, so they don't know they're angry, and nobody else knows they're angry. And 1s, everybody knows they're angry, but they don't know they're angry. So that's that repression piece. You have, what's her name? Simpson. I just blanked. Bart's sister, Lisa Simpson. There's this right and wrong, this goody two shoes, this finger wagging. That's a 1 like extension of their reactivity. When they're in reaction, there's this like pointing quality, this, picking quality, picking apart, a critique, and it can be outwardly directed or can be directed towards themselves. So look down in the corner, you can kind of see the face of Lucy from Charlie Brown, always picking on Charlie Brown, always correcting him, always, right and just precise, and nobody can measure up. And there's this criticism. Hermione Granger from Harry Potter, same theme, same vibe. and they're difficult to be around when they're reactive, when they're low functioning. Now, when they're high functioning, they are methodical. They are just unbelievable doers in a very disciplined way. So I'm looking at Andy Dufresne from one of my favorite movies, Shawshank Redemption. And Andy is clearly a 1. He could be a 5. He plays a lot of 5s and 1s in most of his movies. And that's true with a lot of actors and actresses. They'll play their Enneagram type because that's what they're good at. As an aside, I'd love to be called by a Hollywood, kind of a casting director to use the Enneagram to find the right type for the role. I think that would be fun because I think we naturally know our type and we gravitate towards, I imagine, those parts. I'm not an actor. And that's why you see so many real life people playing characters that are the same Enneagram type. Well, Andy Dufresne is certainly, Tim Robbins and Andy Dufresne are 1s. And you can see it all throughout the movie because it's just this discipline day in, day out, not losing sight of the target, of the task, of the mission, which is to escape. He was wronged. He was in the right, but he was framed for a murder he didn't commit. And then he finds his way out. And in the end, he turns it around and the people in the movie who are corrupt get theirs. And, the good guy always wins. The bad guy always loses, kind of a thing. And that's Andy Dufresne. Who else do we have on here? I'm not saying that all of these are perfect. They may not be, but I think that they're by and large in the right ballpark. So we also have, let's see, up here we have, I'll talk about Mary Poppins. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but there is a prim and properness to Enneagram 1s. I think very much like a British culture. It's, just a little more civilized, a little more disciplined, a little more conservative. And you can feel that in that Mary Poppins character. And they can become matriarch and patriarch figures different than some of the other types based around that. They're dutiful, so they take care of their duties, responsibility. I mean, I think Enneagram 1s are the most responsible type when they're responding, when they're healthy. And they can also degenerate into something far less than that. They can start neglecting their duties if they're reactive. It becomes too much of a burden, and they collapse almost under the weight of the pressure that they put on themselves. So a lot of these figures you'll see in here really put a ton of pressure on themselves to be good and to be perfect. Don Draper's wife, I forgot her name in Mad Men, she's on here. There is this pressure, and then random, but I remember the movie Ferris Bueller, his sister in the movie, and then she went on to be in Dirty Dancing, Jennifer Grey. Is that Jennifer? I think it is. Yeah. She in that movie is sort of like the moral conscience, right? And almost wants to crush Ferris Bueller's day off, his good time. She's like plotting against him because what he's doing is technically wrong. And so she wants to bring right to it. But what she misses out on is sometimes you have to put away the moral compass, away right and wrong, and just kind of live life and have fun, which is why the Enneagram 1 has that line also between the 1 and the 7. The 7 is the fun, the 1 is the disciplined. And so they need to let loose and come over and be a little more 7-ish at times, and put away the judgment, put away the criticism, put away the to-do list. And so she really shows us sort of that unhealthy one. And then at the end of the movie, she comes to realize that maybe she needs a little more of what her brother has. The movie never says it, but he definitely needs a little more of what she has. And I see this with 7s and 1s. They need what the other has, the enthusiast and the reformer. And you can see this all throughout these. It's almost a necessary countertype to the freewheeling, the fun character, the living life, Jerry Seinfeld. He plays that little more rigid, and he gives like to Kramer, who's probably a 7, that freedom, and they need each other. You need that tension that a 7 and a 1 can bring to the equation. Can bring to the right movie or television combination. Monica from Friends, definitely a 1. And so she allows, for instance, Joey, the 7, to be the kind of the fun one and the crazy one and the like spontaneous, and she is much more of the rigid and again caricatures. And the work of the Enneagram is to defy our number, and that's where I'm going to leave you. Is our work isn't just to succumb to it, it's to watch these movies, it's to watch these TV shows, to see usually the shadow side, the reactive side of the Enneagram type. Sometimes the high side, the superpower, the Superman or Wonder Woman, and to really start looking at right how that 1 shows up in our life, whether we're a 1, whether it's part of our whole type, whether we're with a 1, to appreciate the range of a 1 from reactive to responsive, and to defy your number. You are not a number. You are all the numbers, and you are beyond a number. You are the divine power of the human spirit, as Dr. Frankel said, and your work is to discover your 1 so that you can defy your 1. And these are some characters in television and in the movies that can help you bring the Enneagram to life. If you'd like to learn more, jump over to defiantspirit.org, where you can learn about the program. At the very least, download 9 Enneagram types, walk into a bar, and this is how they react or they respond. My gift to you for making the journey of the Enneagram with me. Until the next time, defy your number and live your spirit.